Welcome to ESO Daily. Once again, I'm your host, Mystic Raven, and as I mentioned before, I'm finally back in the game thanks to a fellow player that was on Twitter. That's ESO PS4 Daggerfall. Thanks again, man. I appreciate it. If you guys are having problems, once again, logging into the game, please go ahead and check out that video. It did help me tremendously when this player gave me this information, and I can't thank him enough for it. I hate this when people want to just put up a dual system. Okay, guys, as you can see, I'm kind of a little staggering drunk. But today we're going to be going over the new weapon ultimates. And it's kind of funny because I haven't really gotten to morph them yet. I'm still in the process of doing unlocks on certain characters. But I did manage to get 3 of the ultimates unlocked. And we have the... Well, sorry about that. I'm going to put this back just for a moment. We'll be covering over this, trust me. I was able to get Lacerate, Rapid Fire. I'm going to put that back on. And I was also able to get Berserker Strike. Now, one thing I want to mention on this, and we'll take a look at Lacerate. Slash all enemies in front of you, dealing 27,915 physical damage over 8 seconds, and healing you for 50% of the damage. The damage will scale based on your stats and champion allocation. So, depending on how many champion points you have in your physical damage, and also how much weapon damage you have, and how much stamina, all of these factors will increase or decrease your amount of damage. The 8 seconds is standard, as well as how much it will heal you for. Now I'm going to go ahead and put on Bound Ages, and as you can see, it has scaled up a little bit. Lacerate, sorry, we just went Lacerate. Rapid Fire. Unleash a barrage of arrows at an enemy, dealing 44,280 physical damage over 4.1 seconds. This was actually a very surprising channel for me. It actually looks really cool. The animation looks really cool. The ability to cancel out is not really effective. So for PvE, this works out really great. But for PvP, they have a morph called a turret, and where a little turret will fire this ultimate for you. To me, that is huge, especially for PvP. So there are really... You can use this in multiple ways for rapid fire. And it gives a really good ranged ultimate, because prior to all of this, and I'm glad the devs brought it out, regardless whether or not you decide to use a weapon ultimate, for stamina, they were kind of limited with their ultimate selection, because you could take any ultimate. However, in your champion points, Magicka was capping out more on the ultimates because of Elemental Expert. When players put in, I mean, it did scale off of physical and Magicka, so the devs did a really good job keeping it competitive for stamina. But when you put more points into Elemental Expert, you would get more benefits from, let's say, Shooting Star or Icy Comet for a Magicka user than you would for the Stam user. And that's true. Also, penetration was an effective factor as well. So all of these variables, played a big part in deciding, hey, you know what? Maybe we do need to come out with weapon ultimates. And I'm really happy the devs did. The devs did such a really good job with this, despite, what most people would think that, I was mad at ZeniMax. Of course, I'm frustrated, but I do think that the devs do a good job with what they do. The company does try to do the best they can. So once again, I do support a lot of what the company does and what they try to bring to this MMO. So regardless, they did a great job with, bringing this out, because it really now is affecting stamina users. Now, another ultimate that to me is probably going to be looking at a future nerf is Berserker Strike, because what this does, the attack ignores the target's resistance completely. And grants you the physical and spell resistance equal to the amount ignored for 8 seconds. For PvP, this is insane. This is retarded because the ultimate, the morph to this, will actually even refund the ultimate's cost at 100%. Not half, 100% of the cost. So if you were to use that as a finisher, you can pretty much like kill him with it, move on to the next target. Do your combo, kill him with it, move on to the next target. Because you have a constant ultimate up at all times if it's played right. So I think in the near future, a lot of people are going to complain about this. This is my premonition. And that's eventually going to get a big whack of the nerf. As far as the damage output goes, I don't have a problem with the damage output. I think the damage output is pretty good, is scaled pretty well. So I don't feel like the damage is overpowered or, ignoring the resistance, but, the morph to actually grant back, the player 100% of the ultimate is a little overkill, and that's what they should actually rename the morph to, that is overkill. So that's my opinion. But, it is a really good, this is going to be good for both PvE and PvE. Because, regardless, in PvE, you're not going to get the refund as much, especially when you're looking at boss fights. But it definitely plays well for single target. Lacerate, to me, is the questionable one. Because I personally probably would not use this in PvP. Now, PvE all day, every day. It gives a nice AoE effect, and it's also helping you. Now, the 50% of the damage done would help you in PvP. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it's an AoE effect, and it's an 8-second tick. I personally would be questionable whether or not to use it in PvP for me, as for my playstyle. But for PvE, this is a great AoE. And it really, helps the healer out there, and especially if you're up close with the dual wield, and let's say you use two-hander dual wield, this is really going to help, compensate for that close quarter combat. So really interesting, more, ultimates here. The bow. Now, here's what's really cool, rapid fire. I was actually really impressed with rapid fire, because this can go either way. You can use this for PvE or PvP. I wouldn't use the channel for PvP, but, when it comes to the morph for, I forget the name of it right off the top of my head, but basically it's putting down, the machine to spits it out for you. So you can channel it. This is a great ranged ultimate for PvE, hands down. If you don't have a range ultimate and you need that range ultimate and you're using a bow, this works out really well. It's, but the question of it is, and this is kind of where I'm going to put this, here's the cons when you take a look at weapon ultimates. Because let's go ahead and I'm going to take a look at one of my skills here, Bloodthirst. It deals 1,251 physical damage. Now, another thing I want you to see here is my weapon damage without my builder. So my weapon damage without my builder is 3,732. Okay, we're going to go down to skills. And I'm going to go to the Fighters Guild. And I'm actually going to slot the Flawless Dawnbreaker. Now it's up to 3,958. That's almost 158. And then when I take a look at Bloodlust again, it's not quite 100 extra DPS, more like 70. But I think you guys kind of get where I'm going at with this. This is kind of going to be the big question for you, whether or not the weapon ultimate is going to replace Flawless Dawnbreaker for you. Because keep in mind, Flawless Dawnbreaker is going to dramatically impact your abilities. So, and your weaves and your weapon damage. This is kind of what you're going to have to debate about when you're making your build or going through your rotation. Now, for me personally, I would probably stay with Flawless Dawnbreaker on one sidebar and use a Weapon Ultimate on the opposite sidebar, depending. Now, I also use Werewolf a lot in Trials because it gives me the extra regen boost because I run a 5-5 switch. So I really sometimes do need that extra regen, but that costs me also in my weapon damage on that bar because I'm not running Flawless Dawnbreaker. But especially for when it comes to mechanics, you might want the weapon ultimate because when you need a range ultimate, rapid fire could save your ass and from getting in close quarters and still be able to push out a decent amount of DPS for an ultimate. So it's not always about how much weapon damage you can stack or how much, you know, you can push out by overpowering. I mean, if you wanted to do that, you could put all Fighters Guild abilities in there, but your rotation would suck ass. So you have to, when you're putting your build together, you need to be a little careful and cautious and see what works for you as an individual, because that's the most important aspect. What's effective and what works for you and what still pushes out a decent amount of DPS. It's not really a lot, but when you take a look at, you know, 4%, that can make a difference in a lot of situations. So I just would encourage all of you, be careful when you're deciding what ultimates are right for you, and adjust them accordingly to your playstyle. Now, as far as PvP, all rules are out the window. So I always tell people, this is why I don't put, it's one of the reasons I don't put my PvP builds out on, you know, YouTube. One, I don't like to give out my PvP builds because everybody's doing it. I take PvP a little more serious. I'm an old school gamer, so I really do like to keep my PvP builds to myself. But at the same time, you know, everything that you do here and what I'm going to tell you, PvP, all rules are out the window. Whatever you want to do, however you want to combo it up, that's on you. It's a fun way of experimenting with different gear. And I would also tell you that on PvE aspect, don't become accustomed to one set gear or an ideal set gear, because what builds you might put together might actually outperform what another player has, because your build and your champion and your rotation and your play style is accustomed to how you build your gear combo and your layout, whether it's a dot, whether it's AoE build, whether it's going to be burst damage. All of these factors are going to take place. I'm hoping in the near future to actually do some videos on teaching people how to become good theory builders, and I'm hoping it will pan out. Now, keep in mind that not all the gear and not all the time will your theory pan out, but at the same time, it does make you a good player because it gets you accustomed to different combinations, different builds, and how the game is actually structured. So I do want to tell people, you know, great ultimates, devs did a great job. So, you know, just enjoy it, especially if you're a Stam. If you're a Stam, relish this moment, because this is huge for Stam. Now, I will go over some of the other ultimates, even though I haven't unlocked them on my other tunes yet. Shield Wall, reinforce your shield, allowing you to automatically block all attacks at no cost for 5 seconds. Now, this is, I think, really good for a tank. It's a good mitigating ultimate, because it's an auto block. Personally, though, that's one thing I do like about Elder Scrolls versus all the other games I've ever played, because they were turn-based. This is more interactive, like a shooter, so you have to manually block. And from a tanking perspective, auto block is going to be great for the tanks because it's going to give mitigation, but at the same time, it's kind of reverting back to a turn-based system. But it's still not a turn-based system because it's an ultimate. But I think that the tanks do need some other form of mitigating ultimate, so I feel like this was a good one. They could have done something a little bit better, you know, but at the same time, it is a good ultimate. Now, is that going to replace Warhorn? Probably not. So, but for your 4-mans, definitely a really good mitigating effect, especially on some of the more harder vets dungeons. Let's go ahead with Destruction Staff. Elemental Storm. I've actually been hearing a lot of different mixed reviews when it comes to this ultimate, and opinions when it comes to this. But it creates a catalysmic storm at the target's location that builds for 2 seconds, then lays waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 6,496 magic damage every second for 7 seconds. Now, as far as a dot effect, and I don't know if you would call this a dot effect, but as much damage as it's pushing out per second, that's pretty impressive. I don't know if it's something I would personally use versus all the other class-based ultimates, but let's say you're going straight Destruction Staff. This could be something that, you know, really works well in PvE, especially when you're in a boss fight and there are mobs. Especially like Muzzatun, Runes of Muzzatun. This would be coming very, very handy. So I would definitely say, hey, if you're a staff user and you want an AoE ultimate, try it out. It might suit your playstyle. Restoration Staff. Panacea. Release the rejuvenating energies of your staff to swirl around you, healing you or an ally for 8,120 health every second for 5 seconds. Now, initially, I was not impressed with this ultimate. I actually thought for a healing ultimate, it was pretty weak until I checked out the morph. And the morph to this is crazy because it actually will give you steadfast regeneration and I think grand healing, or maybe it's a mutagen or blessing of protection. It gives you 3 of the heals automatically at no cost. That's actually huge. And I can tell you I have 3 healers. That morph is insanely impressive. It's very impressive because as much as when you're casting all of these and you have to worry about resources, that ultimate is pretty damn good. Another thing that really caught my eye on this was the cost of the ultimate. It's relatively cheap. So you can actually use this a lot more frequently than a lot of other healing ultimates. So to me, this is worthwhile if you're a healer. Now, once again, is it going to replace Warhorn? Probably not. Because a lot of healers and tanks will use the Warhorn. DPS will focus their ultimates as DPS. That's pretty custom. But once again, 4-mans and other scenarios, I think this ultimate is really good. And if you're a healer, I would encourage you to try this out. You might not like the initial ultimate, but the morph to this is well worth it. Trust you and me, from a healer's perspective, you will be very impressed with this morph. So once again, I'm going to just tell you, just try it out. If you don't like it, you can always say, nah, I don't think so. So keep an open mind when you're going through all these different new ultimates. So once again, guys, I really am happy to be back. If you have any questions or comments about this video, post below. I will try to get to them in a timely manner. I'm actually going to be covering quite a number of videos this weekend, so I'm hoping to. And hopefully, if you like it, thumbs up. If you are on the PS4, check out our community site. That's ESO Daily. It is small. I don't post on there a lot. I'm really busy most of the time. But your feedback is always welcome, and people do like to talk on the community site from time to time. And it does give you some, a nice community to initially hook up with. But also, if you do like the video and you want to subscribe, I love my subscribers. I know I can be a little bit of an asshole sometimes, but I love you guys. So once again and always, I do want to thank you all for watching, and you have a nice day.